Our life in this world is filled with problems. We face daily challenges and struggles. And it really doesn't matter where we go, these troubles and hardships confront us, causing us to have fear and anxiety. There are even times when problems become so severe that others feel helpless and miserable. Well, in the face of such problems, it is but natural for people to seek for a solution. In a life that is full of hardships, distress, and pressures, many people look to things upon which they can depend. Take parents, for example. There's a constant demand to meet not only the material needs of themselves and their children, but also to provide for them a good education. Furthermore, not sparing anybody, the rapid pace of modern-day life has caused a myriad of health problems. And with the corresponding increase in the cost of medical treatment, it is only natural for people to find ways to cope. To overcome, or at least to deal with the pressures of life, some dedicate themselves to a physical regimen, others pursue hobbies, while others are content with taking vacations whenever the opportunity arises. Tragically, some, especially the youth in society, resort to more extreme measures of dealing with intense demands by resorting to using drugs and alcohol, and in many cases abusing them. Users may claim that these substances give them a sense of elation and contentment, at least while under the influence. But is this true? In an online article published by kidshealth.org, they said, "The truth is, drugs don't solve problems. They simply hide feelings and problems. When a drug wears off, the feelings and problems remain or become worse. Drugs can ruin every aspect of a person's life." So the negative results of alcohol and drug abuse far outweigh the satisfaction, if any, that one may get as evidenced in the following excerpt. Effects of alcohol and drug abuse. Using alcohol and other drugs impair your judgment, making you more likely to hurt yourself and others, to have trouble with the law, do poorly at work and school, and to have relationship trouble. Alcohol and drugs also have specific health risks. They can damage major organs, increase your risks of cancers, and even cause death. In fact, depending upon the kind of substance being used, the effects can range from severe depression, paranoia, and hallucination to loss of bodily control and brain damage. It is also a well-known fact that drunk driving, or driving under the influence of drugs and/or alcohol, is one of the major causes of vehicular accidents that can lead to death or permanent physical and mental damage, not only on the part of the one under such influence, but also on the part of the innocent motorist and pedestrians. Clearly, using or abusing illegal substances is not the proper way of dealing with the pressures of life. So, what is? Listen to what the Bible says as we go here to Psalms 119. We read, "In my distress and anguish, your commandments comfort me. Your laws are always fair. Help me to understand them, and I shall live." According to the Bible, one can alleviate pressures in life by obeying God's commands. What should we realize regarding this statement of King David? Pressures and stress are nothing new. They have been a problem for ages as depicted in this statement of David. But we should also point out that it was not necessarily the pressures he faced, but how he dealt with them that is important here. How did he overcome such problems and pressures he faced? It wasn't by finding joy in alcohol or drugs, but by finding joy in God's commands. Focusing on God's commands is a sure way then to overcome such kinds of life's problems, because through obeying them one may live. God's commands and obedience to them would never be detrimental to us like drugs or alcohol, but would help us to achieve our goals because God's laws are fair. One may be thinking, well, alcohol or beer, for example, wasn't as readily available as it is today, which would explain one's effort to lean more on God's commands. But what real-life event occurred that shows a servant of God who relied on God and not on alcohol to relieve her worries? Let's read here in 1 Samuel 1, 9-18 and 20. This is written. One time when they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Eli, the priest, was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. Hannah was very sad. She wept and wept. She prayed to the Lord. She made a promise to him. She said, Lord, you rule over all. Please see how I'm suffering. Show concern for me. Don't forget about me. Please give me a son. If you do, I'll give him back to the Lord. Then he will serve the Lord all the days of his life. He'll never use a razor on his head. He'll never cut his hair. As Hannah kept on praying to the Lord, Eli watched her lips. She was praying in her heart. Her lips were moving, but she wasn't making a sound. Eli thought Hannah was drunk. He said to her, How long are you going to stay drunk? Stop drinking your wine. That's not true, sir, Hannah replied. I'm a woman who is deeply troubled. I haven't been drinking wine or beer. I was telling the Lord all my troubles. Don't think of me as an evil woman. I've been praying here because I'm very sad. My pain is so great. Eli answered, Go in peace. May the God of Israel give you what you have asked him for. She said, May you be pleased with me. Then she left and had something to eat. Her face wasn't sad anymore. So after some time, Hannah became pregnant. She had a baby boy. She said, I asked the Lord for him, so she named him Samuel. Hannah, an early servant of God, was beset with troubles and pains which caused her to weep constantly. And though thought to be drunk with wine or beer, approached God in prayer to help alleviate her worries in wanting a son. Hannah serves as a great example for us in that although she had accessibility to wine, beer, or intoxicating drinks, she did not rely on these to help relieve her worries. Rather, she relied on God's power through prayer to ask the Lord of what she desired and wanted most. And in the end, God granted her request by giving her a son whom she named Samuel. It's important that in times of problems, stress, and difficulties, we depend on God for all things we need and not on drugs or alcohol. Why? Apart from what has been mentioned already, what is another proof that using drugs and alcohol are not the proper way of dealing with life's pressures? In Proverbs 23:31-35, we read, Don't gaze at the wine, seeing how red it is, how it sparkles in the cup, how smoothly it goes down. For in the end it bites like a poisonous snake, it stings like a viper. You will see hallucinations, and you will say crazy things. You will stagger like a sailor tossed at sea, clinging to a swaying mast. And you will say, They hit me, but I didn't feel it. I didn't even know it when they beat me up. When will I wake up so I can look for another drink? When under the influence of alcohol and drugs, one certainly has the feeling of elation and joy since he feels that his problems are far away or even solved. But this is short-lived. In the end, one only compounds his predicament. Why? For the surreal existence he escapes to last only for a while. Then reality kicks back in, with his problems still unsolved and in fact now more complicated. In what way? Well, to earn a living nowadays is very difficult, and what is earned should be used wisely. But for those who abuse themselves with intoxicating substances are actually squandering what they have earned, and invariably the income of others. For those with families or loved ones to take care of, this creates an even stressful and tumultuous situation at home, since those who depend on such a person will find themselves lacking in their basic needs. We know, dear friends, that using and even abusing intoxicating substances was not only existent in early times, but is also prevalent in our time. Knowing this, what is the apostles' admonition so that we'll not fall victim to its addictive ways? In Ephesians 5:18, we read, "Stop getting drunk with wine, which leads to wild living, but keep on being filled with the Spirit." Apostle Paul teaches us to stop getting drunk with wine. His admonition is timely and should be heeded. For how many times have we heard of people who reach the pinnacle of success only to come crashing down to obscurity and shame due to substance abuse? Such is the peril of allowing oneself to be influenced by the intoxicating lure of drugs and alcohol. Instead, what did Apostle Paul advise? Keep on being filled with the Spirit. Let us then become dependent on God in getting through life's problems, difficulties, and pressures. How valuable is it for one to become dependent on God, especially in these times? Let's read in Philippians 4:13 and 19, and Apostle Paul teaches, "I have the strength to face all conditions by the power that Christ gives me. And with all His abundant wealth through Christ Jesus, my God will supply all your needs." By depending on God, focusing and obeying what He commands us to do, God can not only give us the strength to face all conditions, but also supply us with all our needs. In this way, no matter what the problem, no matter how great the challenge, and even against all odds, just remember to trust in God, and He will always provide us the solution.